In the opening frames, we see excerpts from an old black and white film discussing marriage. Some of us spend most of our lives happily married, but then we start thinking about missed opportunities and end up destroying what we built for years. This is the biggest mistake. A man named Sam, one of the viewers, cannot hold back his sobs, disturbing other moviegoers, and has to move to the back row. Grace, about the same age as Sam, seems to share his emotions. Intrigued, she joins Sam in the back rows. They both go to the theater alone, and they are both sad. That's how their unusual acquaintance begins. Meanwhile at the hotel, Monica hints to Howard that the spark between them has long since faded, but he is not in the mood. Howard's wife is waiting for him at home, and he himself no longer fully understands what he is doing in this hotel. Should he continue this affair? Alan is the best man at his best friend Jonah's wedding. Alan's girlfriend, Michelle, is also clearly looking forward to a proposal. Jonah jokes that if Michelle catches the bouquet, Alan won't be able to escape. Alan in turn is terrified by the prospect of marriage, and instead of his girlfriend, he catches the bouquet himself, making all the guests gasp in amazement. Of course Michelle is outraged. Does Alan really not want to marry her? Sam and Grace decide to stay at an unremarkable hotel on the outskirts. However, at the last moment Grace, feeling embarrassed, changes her mind, and they go to a nearby cafe instead. Both Grace and Sam are in their 60s. And though they just met today, they feel like they've known each other forever. Two lonely souls have come together. Even if one of them is married, they are clearly unhappy. And after living for more than 60 years, don't they deserve something good for themselves? After getting food and drinks from the cafe, Sam and Grace return to the hotel after all. This is a completely new experience for them, so awkwardness is inevitable. Grace realizes she cannot do this with a wedding ring on her finger or if there is a Bible in the room. Sam is just as nervous, but he is determined not to back down, convincing Grace that they are not doing anything shameful. While others were enjoying life, they behaved properly, and that led to their loneliness. So now they have the right to happiness. At the same time, Howard and Monica continue to argue. Their affair has been going on for 4 months, but Howard is filled with doubts. Monica, on the contrary, wants to spend the rest of her life indulging, having delicious dinners in elegant restaurants, drinking expensive wine and staying in luxurious hotels. Howard is frightened by such changes since he used to live a calm and measured life. He never thought his relationship with Monica would go beyond a single encounter. Michelle is deeply hurt by Alan, thinking his intentions are not serious. She had wanted to catch the bridal bouquet gracefully like a ballerina, so that it would symbolize their future married life. But now it seems that none of that will happen. Howard prepares to leave for home, not bothering with sentimental words of love. He assumes Monica is smart enough to understand everything. Of course she understands, but that doesn't lessen her anger. Monica tells Howard that if he walks out of that hotel room now, she will do everything she can to make him hurt just as much. But Howard is sure he hasn't hurt Monica, so he leaves without a second thought. Ever since her dream of becoming a ballerina collapsed, Michelle has known she would never be completely happy. But today Alan has made her experience a humiliation unlike anything she has ever felt. And she refuses to stay in the same room with him. Alan explains that he caught the bouquet reflexively, but Michelle doesn't believe him. Since he even climbed onto the table, he clearly did it on purpose. Staying on the same planet with such idiots is the worst moment in women's history. Neither Sam nor Grace regret what happened between them. Is it a sin to experience a moment of happiness? Now they are simply happy to walk through the nighttime streets and talk about everything in the world. Alan doesn't understand why anything needs to change if everything is already fine. After all, fewer and fewer people are getting married these days. But Michelle wants progress. She doesn't need a cowardly man, and he has 24 hours to think. Either they get married, or they break up forever. Michelle is not ready for a relationship that isn't going anywhere. Sam told Grace about his experience with relationships. His first love, Martha, was disappointed in him when he cheated on her. Later, Martha married someone else and found happiness, but one day Sam received a letter with no return address, saying that sometimes she still thought about him. It was important for Sam to know that there was someone who, even though they were not by his side, thought well of him, something that couldn't be said about his wife, who was always dissatisfied. Grace said that she too thought well of him. This night was the best of her life. Monica longs for her lost youth. There are plenty of attractive young women around who have no idea that old age comes in an instant, like a snap of the fingers. In a cafe, Howard watches a young couple in love. Their whole life is ahead of them. Howard knows that he will never feel those emotions again. Some things are lost forever to the past. Sam, Monica, and Grace, Howard's wife, all feel the same way. He returned home late, lying to her that he had been playing cards. The couple had long since run out of things to talk about, no matter how hard they tried. Suddenly a noise made them flinch. Thinking it was burglars, Howard grabbed a bat, but it was only their daughter, Michelle. The parents immediately guessed it was about Alan. Their daughter admitted she was tired of uncertainty. Tomorrow she and Alan would either decide to get married or break up forever. Alan couldn't sleep and drove to his parents, Sam and Monica. He said that Michelle wanted marriage, but he wasn't sure. Sam supported the idea of marriage, unlike Monica, who didn't see the point in changing anything if he was already satisfied with the way things were. Sam firmly asked his wife to leave the room so he could have a serious conversation with their son. Taken aback by her husband's tone, Monica still left. Sam explained to his son that love between two people arises unconditionally, regardless of anything. People love simply because, not for any particular reason. He also explained that it often takes years to truly love someone. Love is not the same as passion, which fades over time. Alan asked his father if he would marry his mother again if he could turn back time. Before Sam could answer, Monica interrupted, bringing tea. Sam stated that he would not change his decision in any case because otherwise, he wouldn't have such a wonderful son. Monica also wanted to talk to their son about marriage, but he was already exhausted and asked to postpone it until tomorrow. In the morning, Grace was in an unusually uplifted mood. On one hand she was happy and full of emotions, but on the other she was tormented by guilt. According to the Bible she had committed a sin. Her thoughts were interrupted by Michelle, who needed her mother's advice. Michelle had always done everything right, so she couldn't understand why Alan didn't want to spend his life with her. Howard stepped in, supporting their daughter. Grace wondered why they still hadn't met Alan's parents. Michelle said that his father would probably make a good impression on them, but his mother was a difficult person. Monica really was the type of woman who expected a lot from men. She was surprised to learn that Alan and Michelle split household chores equally, while Sam believed that was how it should be. Howard tried to convey to his daughter that nothing was more important than loyalty, symbolized by a wedding ring. And Howard was puzzled when he noticed that his wife wasn't wearing her ring. Grace explained that her fingers swell. This explanation satisfied Howard, who also wasn't wearing his ring. He said he had left it in the drawer with his clothes. Grace wanted to see his ring, and Howard started coming up with ridiculous excuses. This led to a half-joking argument. Michelle told her parents that she considered them the perfect couple. Monica was certain that Michelle wasn't the right woman for their son. Sam disagreed with his wife's opinion, believing that love was the most important thing, and besides, Michelle was a very sweet and kind girl. Howard eventually managed to find his ring. It seemed like everything between him and his wife was fine. Michelle had always wanted more. When his son asked if he was happy, Sam evasively replied that he was as happy as possible. Grace and Howard were ready to accept whatever decision their daughter made, but first they wanted to meet Alan's parents. Michelle understood that she had to take this serious step and called Alan, inviting him and his parents to dinner at her parents' house tonight. Alan said it was a bad idea. His mother agreed, but Sam called Michelle back and making the decision for everyone in the family, accepted the invitation. Monica doesn't understand what they could possibly have in common with Michelle's parents. One way or another, they arrived in the evening. Monica stated that it was a lovely house, and she and Sam would certainly have had the same if they hadn't fallen behind in life. The tension was growing. Finally everyone had gathered, except for the men. Alan's mother and Michelle's mother met in person for the first time. Monica realized Sam was missing. Had he run away? Everyone except her went outside to look for him. Meanwhile, Howard came downstairs and ran into Monica, which left him in shock. It took him a moment to realize that she was the mother of his daughter's fiancé. At the same time, Sam, who had figured out who Michelle's mother was, didn't know what to do next. Monica made a vulgar joke, nearly exposing her affair with Howard. Alan and Michelle had already realized that introducing their parents wasn't the best idea, but it was too late to back out. The doorbell rang. Grace opened it, and upon seeing Sam on the doorstep, was to say the least shocked. Grace shut the door, trying to convince everyone that it wasn't Sam. Howard expressed the idea that they should all leave immediately. Everyone except their children supported it. But Alan and Michelle wanted to continue to see if they had a shared future. They hoped for their parents' wise advice. Grace had no choice but to open the door, and Sam walked in. The tension threatened to reach its peak. To ease the atmosphere somehow, Alan and Michelle suggested having a drink. Monica openly flirted with Howard, while he desperately pretended they were strangers. Michelle suggested that her father and mother show the guests around the house while she and Alan set the table. Left alone with Howard, Monica began hinting in every possible way that she was open to something more right then and there. But Howard made it clear that he was tired of the affair. Monica, however, didn't want to look for a new man for a secret relationship because it was exhausting. Sam told Grace that last night was the best thing that had happened to him. On the other hand, like Grace, he now had reasons to question his marriage. Michelle still believed that legalizing their relationship was necessary for her and Alan. It would be the next step. Sam was convinced that fate had brought him and Grace together. If it hadn't, they wouldn't have met again after last night, but fate had decided otherwise. Grace was confused about her own feelings. She was drawn to Sam, but she couldn't abandon everything and betray her husband. Michelle had always admired her parents' strong marriage. While her friends' parents were getting divorced, hers stayed together no matter what. Alan didn't have the same positive experience, as he had always felt that his father was unhappy with his mother. And Alan was afraid of repeating that. In an attempt to reach her beloved, Michelle told him that it had nothing to do with them. Michelle gave Alan one last chance. He had to decide right now whether he was ready to spend his whole life with her. She had given him everything and didn't know what else she could do for their relationship. When Alan remained silent, Michelle left upset. Sam advised his son to go after her, but Howard intervened, saying that their children had to make their own decision. Grace didn't understand what they as parents had done wrong. She blamed her husband for allowing her to turn into an old woman. Monica in turn stated that they all needed to be honest with each other. However, the others considered this a bad idea. Monica didn't hide her disappointment with marriage. Her husband used to give her tenderness and attention, but when she stopped receiving emotions from him, she started looking for them elsewhere. Sam said he didn't care. At that moment, everyone confessed their secret affairs to each other. The women left, leaving the men alone. They had a lot to think about. When Sam said that it was important for Grace to just talk about everything, Howard once again realized that he was unworthy of his wife. The men could have fought, but they had no one to be angry with but themselves. Was there still a way to fix the situation? Howard had always thought that living with the person you love was easy, but Sam would never understand that. Meanwhile, the women had a heartfelt conversation as well. Grace had always tried to do everything right, but it hadn't saved her marriage. Monica had also wanted simple feminine happiness, but one day she woke up and realized that the best years of her life were already behind her. That was the scariest thing for her. The men rejoined the women. Howard began begging his wife for forgiveness, swearing that he had never cheated before. Now he knew for sure that infidelity wasn't the answer. If Grace gave him another chance, he would be the best husband for her. But Grace wasn't ready to forgive Howard, who had driven her to seek someone else. Monica and Sam advised Howard to go after Grace because despite everything, she loved him. Monica asked her husband why he hadn't stopped her at the time, even though he had known about her affair. Sam replied that he was fine with everything. He didn't want to change his usual way of life. So what is the recipe for a happy marriage? The answer is simple. There isn't one. It all depends on us because happiness is a choice. Alan and Michelle got married, knowing for sure that they wanted to grow old together. Their parents were also working on fixing their relationships. And even though they were all over 60, life didn't end there. The best might still be ahead. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss more exciting new products. Also, the authors will be pleased if you leave your opinion in the comments.